Of course, we'll come back to that in just a bit. But meanwhile, it's time for a few questions from the audience members. There are not too many, but there is one that I'll address to you, Todd, and perhaps you, Cindy, to you as well. The question is, how do you see the leadership recruitment of sales officers evolving? Todd?
Yeah, Cindy, you joked about like my next book could be like negotiating transparently. I'm actually thinking that transparent leadership is a really interesting topic that I've been nerding out on. So I'm glad this question came in because it's really timely. But you know, there is an evolution happening not only in the world of sales, but there is an evolution happening in the world of leadership. If you look today, the demand for great salespeople is so much higher than the supply. Like, I think we can all, like, there's so many companies. I'm in Indianapolis today. There's 5 companies within a block here that are trying to recruit salespeople. And as a result, leadership, you've got to create a magnetic culture where not only people want to come to your organization, but they want to stay and they want to tell all their friends. And that old school, like I remember when I started back in the mid 90s, like my bosses were all about this idea that like, hey, the beatings will continue until morale improves. And as an employee, I know me and a lot of my friends, we worked for the weekend. We didn't work for fulfillment in our everyday, meaning I worked for a paycheck so I could go have fun on the weekends. Well, that's all changed. The 46% of the workforce right now is millennial, and I would say in the tech space it's a lot higher. And those individuals, they're working for fulfillment. They're working, remember that SCARF model, they're working for relatedness. They want to be in a team environment and they want to do good in their work, regardless what they're selling. Like they want it to mean something every day. And so in this world of, again, high demand, low supply, and millennial workforce where they're looking for fulfillment in their work, the successful leaders are the ones that are driving engagement through understanding culture, right? And doing things like, validating their employees every day, recognizing them often for the great things that they do on a weekly basis, and then providing feedback, meaningful feedback that helps them become better at what they do. And like it hits all 5 of the elements of the SCARF model. But that's what's happening in this world of sales leadership, and leadership in all aspects is the embracing of transparency, the embracing of a culture first attitude, and the embracing of creating an environment that empowers your sellers to be their best. And the ones that aren't doing that are the ones that you're seeing flipping pretty quickly, because every time you lose an employee, it's costing you 1.5 to 2.5 times their salary. And turnover in this environment is killing companies.
So when this is just building on that conversation, and obviously being attuned to the the personal needs, but the sort of the SCARF construct. When we look at our leaders in sales, we're probably not training them enough on some of these fundamentals, right? Because you look at, they're definitely building skills and methodologies and practices and process and etc. And clearly sales leaders more often than not are strong communicators, but maybe not giving the space for building that authenticity because they're always in a rush. How do you think, as the CEO, kind of broadens, it's kind of an overall psyche, right? It's not simply the sales leader. They're living in, a world where their peers may not be exhibiting some of these behaviors as well. So who's really leading the way in sales leadership on this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that I see companies trying to compete on is perks. Like there's this concept I heard, I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote the book Thrive by Design. He referred to it as perk inflation, which means, there was a time a few years ago that we were trying to attract people and keep people by having ping pong tables and papa shots. And then it became, food and snacks. And then it became beer on tap. And like now it's like massage tables and nap pods, and like you're not going to win on the perk inflation battle. What you are going to win is optimizing for the brain and creating an environment that maximizes engagement. There was a company that I was on the sales leadership team for here in Indianapolis, where I am today, called Exact Target. And they were considered one of the pioneers in this. They were written up in a number of magazines around, building this, what they called orange culture, that really created this magnetic environment where voluntary turnover was almost non-existent. And everybody felt like they were, not only getting recognized for what they were doing, but they were moving up in their careers. And in many cases, they could probably make more money somewhere else, but they had that real fulfillment in this environment. But there's a number of them that have kind of followed that lead and are taking that message and that philosophy of leadership to other companies, and the results have been fantastic.
Really, that's really incredible. One of the other, I think, skill avenues for sales is just as in terms of the rise of AI, not just the cultural side, but also their data awareness and appreciation of that strategic asset and the critical nature of that data being complete and accurate and timely, because you can't overlay AI to give you, insights or do predictions unless you've got a really good data layer. And I think that the sales officers absolutely, to evolve and participate in sort of the fourth industrial era, have to really accelerate their analytical skills, not just KPIs, but looking at all the workflows, right? And really using the tools and being role models in those areas. We often find sales leaders don't know how to use their toolkits, and that doesn't send out a good signal. So I think that role modeling behavior is really key. I'll turn it back to Malay.
All right. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Todd. The next question, incidentally, relates to one of the final comments I was making. Well, let Cindy, you answer this one in more detail. The question is, how can AI help in transparency?
Well, you know what, Malay, I think this is a really good question for you to answer. So why don't we start with you, because you've been so immersed, with me day by day, and also, building out the brand. So I'd love your thoughts, and I'll build on yours. We'll just do a switcheroo.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. So thank you for that. The question is indeed wonderful, and it's something that requires awareness across the board and across all nations, to be honest. When AI makes predictions, and more specifically, I'm talking about machine learning or deep learning, it's not necessary that the details and the reasons or the rationale behind AI's functioning will be revealed. If the data, if the deep learning or machine learning model specifically is unsupervised, which in many cases it is, it's very difficult for us to know why AI is making the kind of conclusions it is making. And if you plug it into business decisions or even decisions in the medical field, these are all critical areas where people often make the mistake of going in blind, trusting the AI without understanding if the predictions that have been made are biased, if the data that has been looked at is well in order, or if the situation is different from the situation that the AI analyzed to make its judgment. A quick example, something that comes from Kathy Kobe over at Ernst & Young, who runs this mandate. She mentions in one of our video series that if an AI is asked today to state who among men or women have a higher earning potential by looking at historical data, AI is likely going to say men, because traditionally it's the men who have been the bread earners in the family. But that's, of course, not true. So when you talk about bringing in transparency, it's simply about looking at solutions that can reveal the factors that have been looked at, the parameters, the attributes that have gone into the calculation that the AI has made in order to arrive at its predictive or analytical decision. And the reason that is important, because we at all times need to be able to make informed and contextual decisions. And that is only possible if we understand the context or the scenario in which a particular result came to be. So that is what we mean by AI and transparency. And I would like to add a quick word about sales choice, just to cite an example that's very close to our hearts over here, and something we work on to realize the value of with our clients every day. In case of sales choice, what happens is as we are making predictions on sales opportunities and their likelihood of closing, the AI also reveals in something we call the playbook the win factors or the attributes in that particular data set that the AI model determined to be playing the most influential role in determining the outcome of every single deal. And once it has listed those win factors, it also reveals the conditions that the deals have historically been won in. And what that does is that simple tabulation allows us to see at any point of time when an AI is saying that an opportunity is in a good or bad shape, what are those situations or conditions that are prevalent that is leading to the AI thinking whatever it is thinking. And that kind of revelation can help a lot because there are many times many aspects of the truth are not present in the data set. So it could be that managers and VPs are then able to actually realize whether or not to follow the AI's recommendation. And that is a classic case of machine and man coming together to lead to a productive solution. Cindy?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I think there's just, I think a couple of key words I would add in. Really appreciate that summary. Two key things underlying any AI transparency position is number one, explainability. You mentioned the supervised nature, and that's really key. Kind of going back to human decision making based on AI. Obviously, we want trusted AI, and hence the decisions that we make around that we do need to explain. So, really be thoughtful in terms of your modeling and being able to explain the parameters of the results. The second one is, which you touched on, is I think fairness. Fairness in the sense of ensuring that the data is really, valid in terms of making those recommendations, because any of the legal suits that will, continue to be underway will be based on those two areas, both on fairness and explainability.
Thank you, Cindy. That's most helpful. I think, are nearing the end of the webinar. We have time for one more question, though, and this one I think I'll direct it to you, Todd. The question goes, we have talked about sales so far, but what role does marketing play in this evolution?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm glad they asked that because I probably should have injected that earlier, because it's not that when you leave salespeople out on their own to go lead with your flaws, that becomes really messy really quickly. And so marketing, there was a study by a company called Trust Radius that talked about what are the tools that marketing provides that add trust and which ones erode trust. And there was this whole ranking, and even case studies ranked worse than reviews, which is amazing to me. So I think when we think about the role of marketing in this world of the pervasiveness of reviews and feedback, and this world where we now know that our brains make decisions with feeling, and when we lead with transparency, we're enhancing that marketers need to go empathize, act like a buyer, and figure out, all right, if I'm a buyer of our solutions or our products or our services, and I go research what other people's experiences have been with us, what am I gonna find? And what they're gonna find, it might be reviews, it might be feedback on Glassdoor, it could be a number of things, but then to call all of that together, curate it together, and then help create the messaging that salespeople are going to lead with, that will position themselves as a 4.2 to a 4.5 instead of a perfect 5. Marketing really needs to take the lead on that, because I think, again, sellers are not experts in messaging, and they probably don't have the bandwidth to know all the different places that buyers are going to go. It's a new category of expertise that great marketers are going to need to have, and they're going to need to make it a regular cadence, that on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, to go out to these review sites and figure out what people are saying about them.
It's actually a very timely comment that you're making. Cindy and I were having this discussion just yesterday. We always started our marketing with this entire elaborate journey, but it's definitely something that can so easily be missed and not looked at. We definitely be taking your comments to heart, Todd. Thank you so much for those comments. Just to bring this to a conclusion, a quick word on Sales Choice. Cindy has obviously detailed the product a bit. Just to add to her comments, we are an insight engine driven by machine learning that appears as an app on Salesforce App Exchange. It can be installed in 5 to 10 minutes, and it allows users to be able to tell with 95% accuracy not only what revenue they expected to bring home, but which opportunities they should focus on and which ones they should ignore, thereby saving a lot of time and money they would otherwise waste. And as I mentioned only a few moments ago, Sales Choice then also explains the rationale behind all that thinking so that you can take corrective action well informed on the context that's leading to that particular outcome. Sales Choice also brings in a bunch of other features that can help you with looking at your account relationships, tracking activities, the opportunity history, and perhaps my personal favorite, be able to see with pinpoint accuracy in real time how complete the data is across every single relevant field in your data set for every single user in the team. Talk about a way to get your Salesforce adoption up to near perfection instantly. We do have that, and we'll be absolutely happy to show it to you and explore how we can help you increase your win rates and your top line revenue while reducing your costs of sales. We have a bunch of recognitions. Of course, like most other companies, we have been covered by the major analysts. We won the Mindbridge AI Leader of the Year award only a couple of weeks back, having already won the Digital Transformation Award for AI Disruption in Canada last year, both awarded on a national level and in a group of some well recognized peers. As a final word, the predictive AI world, as I mentioned, is your source for everything AI in sales and marketing. And what we do regularly is rely on experts like Todd in this case to bring us viewpoints that are not being discussed or we haven't come across so often. So make your way to saleschoice.com/resources to check out our other webinar videos. This one will be up shortly as well. We also have podcasts, white papers, blog channels, of course, and subscribe to our newsletter by writing to marketing@saleschoice.com or just filling in the form on the website to stay in touch with all our other updates. And finally, we also invite you to join us at www.aidirectory.ai. This is an initiative that is now stretched on a global level, co-founded originally by Sales Choice, CATA, that's the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, and the IT World Canada, which is Canada's largest tech media publishing house, and it intends to bring all stakeholders, institutions or individuals in the AI space together on a common platform where they can find each other and find resources and upcoming reports and articles pretty quickly just to stay informed in the domain. With that, I would like to thank the audience for having been with us. Hopefully you found this productive. I'll let Cindy and Todd say final words and a thank you to them. Cindy, starting with you.
Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Todd, thank you for the inspirational talk. I'm sure that everybody here has grown as a result of the conversation, and I can only say that we look forward to having you on a future show and maybe even doing some research together. You know, one of the things that we're researching in our labs on the cognitive side is actually classifying the personality, and that personality is hardwired in a certain way that relates to their feelings. So there's a whole other psychological context. So let's make sure, Todd, we catch up with you on that front. We're working with IBM using some of their advanced natural language processing technology. So some exciting things there, but it all kind of gets up the curve, you know, to the neurological and the brain science area. So I think there's some other aspects where your thinking and ours can come together, Todd, and all of you there. Just know that we're very thoughtful, we're very kind, and we're really passionate about responsible AI and trusted AI. I think it's so key to our future, and obviously transparency is underpinning everything in our world.
Todd?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And for everybody, since we're right at the top of the hour, just know that transparency sells better than perfection. So embrace it. And I can't wait to hear how the results lay out for you as you start to embrace it. And again, Malay and Cindy, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. It was our pleasure, and wish everyone a very good afternoon and a great day ahead. Thank you, and bye-bye.